What is up, Salt community? Welcome to episode 1 of season 2. It's our 19th episode that we have put out on the Monochrome Podcast. We are so excited. I've got Caitlin Johnson here with me, the Salt director. So we're so excited. Welcome to season 2. We're going to have some incredible guests this season. If you didn't listen to the trailer, go listen to that to get a little bit more insight on what's happening. But we're going to be talking to Natalie Runyon, Samar Masad, Lauren Sloat, who's also known as Flurry, and a bunch of other incredible people. We got some great interviews at Salt 2025, all thanks to our good friends at Lens Pro to Go, who gave us an awesome credit for some great cameras. And so that's kind of how we shot all of these at conference. We also had the incredible opportunity to meet with some talented people that we called the Salt Creators. And this was the first year we've ever done this. So today we are premiering the Salt Creator interview with some really powerhouse people. You're going to love it. It's very insightful. If you've ever dealt with trying to post on social media or create stuff for your church, which is everything we do. They kind of talk through their processes and how they think about creativity. So that's great. But first, Caitlin, you have some interesting discussion that we're going to have. Fill us in. What are we talking about?
I want to talk about the 2025 Grammys. And I hope no one is immediately like, oh, red flag. They're talking about the Grammys. There's so much drama there. But there is so much technology there. And the Grammys were a number of weeks back now. But it brought up this unique conversation that we were having in the office. Billie Eilish did a performance at the Grammys with tons of like really cool LED stuff. And one of Salt's founders, actually, one of the 4 founders, his name is Nick Rivero. He started a company years back called Meptic. They ended up selling to another company called Disguise, but Disguise ran all the LED for that Billie Eilish performance. They did all it was kind of like almost a virtual environment with LED. Best thing I can say is go check out that video. But it brought up this conversation of, are we still using LED in creative ways? Are we at a spot where LED has just become basic, almost like screens for church? You know, I think a lot of like medium and smaller churches still are not in a spot where maybe they can afford LED, but everyone's like hoping to get there. Whereas the large churches, I know I could name a few churches here in Nashville, LED is just their backdrop. And they almost don't always even do creative things with how they have the panels laid out or the designs. It's just one big wall behind them with new graphics or videos every Sunday. So this begs the question, like, are we as creatives and creators using LED creatively, or have we like gotten bored with LED design for stage?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting topic for sure, because it used to be that, I remember back in the day, everyone was grabbing old, shipping pallets, and that was everyone's background,
Oh my gosh, yeah. We call it the youth wall now.
Yeah, that got old quick, And so LED wall, I don't think it'll ever get to a point where LED wall is old, But I think there is for example, at Salt this past year, we used LED wall, but we put a filter in front of it to give it a texture. And so I think there's a temptation to just let's just put more and more LED wall up.
Make the wall behind us just bigger instead of creative. Yeah.
And you can get kind of lazy and just throw some stuff up there. And so it does look good, but maybe there's some ways that, the church could be a little more intentional about how they use those. I've seen a lot lately, just on social media, of people saying use LED wall like a lighting fixture and less a screen.
That's a great mindset to have, I feel like, for it. I will brag on Salt a little bit. I feel like the last 2 years in particular, I guess the last 3 years, we were LED heavy on things, but this last year we had a limited number of LED we could bring into the venue. And so we found creative ways. Like you said, we added this corrugated plastic to make it look like a cathedral window. We framed it with built out wood frames.
Very cheap to do.
Yeah, it was cheap. We have a whole behind the scenes video on how you can do it, which is awesome. You go check that out. But the 2 years before too, I remember we had this giant LED wall just behind us because it was already at the church that we were at for SALT conference. But then we found creative ways to play with it. So, I mean, no dissing, the graphics and videos that our designers throw up on there because it's amazing. But we found ways to curve the LED. So it was like an orchestra shell. We've had instances where we stack it or layer it on the stage differently. And I will say the churches I'm always most impressed with when it comes to LED are the people that are finding those creative ways to use it. They're curving it. They're like rearranging it differently, series by series with their sermons. And I just feel like that is the way to stay creative and keep pushing your boundaries as a creative team.
Yeah, and little sneak peek, we're actually already in talks talking about how we're going to do stage design this year. Yeah. And we will be using LED in a non-traditional way. So it's going to be very, very cool. I think people are going to love it. So I'm excited about that. I won't give anything else away, but
good.
We're trying to practice what we preach. So
yes, no spoilers yet, but stay tuned because it's going to be a pretty awesome set and LED will be involved. Yes. Well, speaking of creatives and being creative, we had some brilliant creative minds come to SALT this year. I will just say we started this thing called the Creator Program, the Creator Pass. JT found some very awesome individuals to invite to conference this past year. And honestly, without giving away too much, because they're going to come talk and, share about their experience and what they do and who they are. But I just want to say I had this expectation that these amazing personalities would come together and then just kind of do their own thing at conference. And they would just kind of be independent, go get all their own content and film their own thing. And this group just came together. They became a team. They became almost best friends. They were like, no, we want to spend this conference together. We want to go grab content together. We want to come up, we want to hear each other's creative ideas. And they just, I feel like, fed off of each other so well. And so we were able to sit down and have an amazing conversation with the creators that came to SALT. And we've got an awesome interview then to share with you.
I'm Jonathan Malm. I create videos for Instagram and run a company called Sunday Social.
My name is McQuinda. I am the host of a podcast called The Faith Hustle, where we help young Christian entrepreneurs learn how to build their business God's way. And I'm happy to be here.
I'm Derek Ortiz, designer, content creator, and staff member at Sunday Social. And yeah.
I'm Hannah Guernsey. I am a full-time freelance graphic designer and creative director.
I'm Ryan Lochi. I'm the CEO and founder of the Church Collective, pastor, and a professor.
All right, so here's my first question. For you, what did you have to overcome to first start making content, putting it out there? You're already, obviously a lot of you are already doing different things, but then to start actually sharing it and posting about it, what was the process to get there?
I think, just kind of not allowing yourself to get paralyzed by what other people think of you, getting over that imposter syndrome of you not feeling like you know enough or are good enough. I think just putting stuff out there, you don't know what people want until you put stuff out there. And so I think just having fun with it. And I don't know about you guys, but that's kind of where I'm at.
I would definitely agree. I think for me, I struggled before I started my podcast, I was going to do it with two other people, two other hosts, because honestly, I was too scared of being out there. Yeah. And God really spoke to me and used them to say, listen, this is your vision. God put it in your hands. And if you have the conviction for it, my dad used to tell me all the time, if you have the conviction for something, you have the responsibility to it. And so it took a lot of courage, and I had to pray a lot of okay, God, you asked me to do this and you didn't, make a mistake when you called me. And so honestly, it was just asking for courage and knowing that the nervousness, I don't know if ever goes away. You get more comfortable, but just doing it scared anyways because you feel like that's what God called you to do.
I don't know if you guys faced what I did, but when I started, there was a layer of okay, well, my personal account, a bunch of friends follow me. They're going to be disinterested in what I'm going to do. Yeah. And I just, I don't know how I got over it. I just did it, and now it's fine. Yeah. But
I started a second account.
Yeah, that's probably that probably would have been the right answer.
Blocked all your friends.
Block you. No, but I mean.
I get that.
Yeah. No, I relate though. I can understand you feeling oh dang, what are these people going to think about me? Because it's really those people you think about, the people that know you. They're going to judge you when you see them on Sunday or whenever you see them. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it boils down to being obedient to your call, which everyone's kind of already touched on, and there's no fear when the Lord is there. And so if you proceed and you know without a doubt that the Lord's called you to something, you have that call, just stepping into something what the Lord calls you to do, he's going to open doors before you know it. And that certainly happened for me, and is a testament of my whole career.
I think along those lines, though, like, I try a ton of things. Like, I believe God's called me, but I don't keep the, like, my approach to it so precious. Where, like, God called me to do something, but that might look like 100 different things.
Yeah.
So I try this and that doesn't work. So for me, I think it was like finding what that voice was, which was like repetitions, kind of like you talked about. You just got to do it. So, but yeah, trusting that God called you, but not being so like, but I have to do it this way.
Right.
And you can try it different ways.
That definitely depends on the personality.
Well, yeah, I think some people do have more. Like, I feel like I never have like a clear vision on anything, so I just try things and then something works.
Same.
I'm complete opposite.
You're like, you got the plan, you got the master plan. That's all.
processor.
Like type A to a T. Like, if anyone could make a poster child for a type A, it would probably be me.
And I'm the exact opposite. But I think that's cool, and I think
Yeah.
then people relate to us differently, probably because of that. Like,
Yeah.
you probably reach more of the type A, and they're like, thank
Maybe. I
God.
don't know.
I think experimenting is like a huge thing we did. And when COVID hit, TikTok was like just coming up. Me and my co-founder were like, okay, well, I guess we should do TikTok because we're supposed to do that. I don't want to dance. Do you want to dance? No.
Yeah.
So we ended up just doing.
We're all disappointed for that.
I know. Maybe I missed my calling, but we started doing like little 15-second guitar tutorials and just blew up. And we like had a blast with that. But like we haven't posted on that account for a year.
Was that your first like idea, or was that like your 10th idea?
If you go back in, you'll find like 4 or 5 really stupid trying to be funny TikToks. No dancing, but and then it was just like, well, this is dumb. And I was like, well, here's how you can play this worship song.
Did you feel like that was going to do well, or were you just like oh,
No, yeah, it was early TikTok, so it was like boom, millions of views on the one little video, and you're like, okay, cool, I guess it's guitar. I know, early TikTok.
That was our experience. Like when TikTok first came up, we just we created content, we had fun with it, and we got like a decent following, and then
But like there was no purpose.
There was no purpose, yeah. But I think even then though, it was still good, a learning process to like get in the rhythm of creating content and just getting consistent. And so I think translating that to like where we're at now, you were able to like iterate and like kind of go off of what you already created. So I think it was still purposeful in that season, even though we were just making like dumb content.
Well, like I think you learned like why did that content do well?
Yeah.
And like now can I apply that to what I'm doing with a more like I have a more focus of what I'm trying to accomplish with my account.
Like who you're trying to reach.
Yeah.
There's room for our strategy. Like there's room for multiple streams of things. So like we'll start every morning, we do like a funny thing, and then every evening we do a training thing, because like the heart of our nonprofit is always like training worship leaders, creatives, doing all that. So it's kind of like we're using the algorithm in our favor, having fun in the morning, but then like we're gonna help you get better on your way through. So like you can do both, even on one account. Like the algorithm's fun now for that.
I love that.
Awesome. So kind of going off of that, like you started creating content and you get into it, what does it look like to transition from, okay, I'm just kind of making stuff and I don't really know what I'm doing, to like, okay, now I'm like falling into a lane, I'm building a personal brand, I'm getting really intentional with what I'm doing, and then even getting to the point where like, I think I can do this like full time, or I think I could do this along with like my other job and what I'm doing. What is that journey look like for you guys?
What really helped is I had like this account that was like a church stage design ideas account, which is like a company that I had. And then I sold that, but I didn't want to lose the followers. So I just like low key transitioned to Jonathan Mall, which I think it was like 6,000 followers. It wasn't a bunch, but like it was such a tight niche, and I expanded a little bit, but I think it helped me to have such a very specific niche that I was reaching. So then it made it easy for getting sponsorships, or made it easy for knowing exactly what type of content to create, because like I knew who was following me already, and I'm like, what kind of content would they like? And I think that's some of the hard parts when you're starting from scratch, because you're like, what do they even want? I mean, Derek and I talk about this all the time. Like he wants to do this, but he knows all of his followers were like following him for fonts or something. He had a ton of followers for this. And he's like, now I want to expand. But like for me, it was really easy because it was just like, it was an easy lane. And because that niche was so focused, like I knew which companies to approach about like, hey, this is who I reach. I think you'd be a great fit. I want to make a video for you. And it was pretty simple for that. I think that's been huge for me.
I usually tell people all the time, like, what's the journey you're taking your audience on? Like does the content just stop here, or like do you have a vision of where, if someone watched your content for a year, where would they end up? Would they be any better? Would their lives be any better? And so I guess I'm a type A in this way. I plan it out. Like I know, in a year's time, if you keep watching my content, you should be here.
You like have an A to B journey almost.
Basically,
That's awesome.
And so, and then I create products and create different things to help you go from here to here and here to here. And so that's but all of it, like you said, comes from like value, and that like at the end of the day, I want my people who listen to thrive, and I want to give them the most I can and just go above and beyond. And so, and give my best, Yeah.
So next question is, where do you find inspiration? Where do you go to? How do you do it? What's like your little trick to get inspired for design or for a funny video, which I think is Derek. So yeah, just where do you find inspiration?
All these people.
Yeah. I'm pretty basic. I use Pinterest.
Come on.
It is tried and true for me, and the algorithm does shift. And so I know there are some people who have expressed frustrations like, oh, Pinterest has changed, it's not the same anymore. But I love it. It has worked every time for me, and also keeps it really fresh and individual to my specific taste and the way I see the world and the way I want to design. And that's the reason I have built my platform, is because I've just been posting my art. And that specific vintage, modern way that I view the world and view style and trends and fashion, or branding even, that specific style is why I think I've built a following. And I just want to be able to use that to inspire others. So I've been using, I'll pull pieces from Pinterest to create a little mood board to be like, oh, hey, this is what inspired me today. Maybe it'll inspire you. And I actually had a meeting with a person in person, and she was like, I actually saved that for my interior design project that I was working on, and I used it, and it was so fun. And so being able to see it come to life even through that channel was really cool.
That's cool. Yeah, Pinterest obviously is huge for design. I don't know where I'd be without it. There's a new one that I'm on to. It's called Cosmos, which is like similar to Pinterest, but I guess more design focused in that realm of that. So for design, definitely those two. When it comes to content, I follow a bunch of creators. I'm saving stuff constantly on Instagram, creating little boards and stuff. And then I love watching like long form YouTubers, vloggers, things like that. So I get like creative angles from them, or how people color grade their stuff, or text, the way they put on the screen. I just kind of get inspiration all over. I'm constantly saving stuff and taking screenshots, even though I'll probably never see them again. Or I never go back to my saved stuff, but I convince myself I am. But I'm always like just trying to get stuff downloaded to maybe in the future look back at it to get inspired by it. But yeah, I get inspired. And then me and Jonathan too, we're always bouncing ideas off of each other when we're together. So I love that about us, that we're just like, we kind of know each other's niches already and like the audiences we're trying to reach. And so we're always kind of riffing off of each other to like get the next best idea.
I just talk to people. We have a network that we invite people into for our nonprofit, and go live in there every Tuesday night and just talk to people. And that gives us a lot of ideas for just simple content, funny things that have happened, or, difficult transitions that need scripture, and then we'll kind of make content based on that.
Derek has a really good line of like, don't wait for inspiration, like set a date for it, like be intentional with it. And so I've taken a lot from that of like, all right, put myself in positions to be inspired, not just hoping that I'm going to be inspired. So that's helped me.
Yeah, I think my inspiration, kind of similar, like conversations, yes, but I feel for me, because I try to make content that's like relatable, I pay attention to embarrassing emotions that I have. Like if I'm in church and like I'm like thinking something, I note that. I'm like, I felt this way, because I'm trying to make people feel like, I feel like that's that's the key. Like for me, at least my type of content is like, oh, I felt that, or I thought that, or I've seen that. And so I try to pay attention and like, oh, I felt, like today I did a post about like when you're at a conference and you think you could do better than the person speaking. I think we've all felt that, right? And so like I pay attention to that and I was like, oh yeah, that'd be a funny like idea, because like you're embarrassed to feel that, but you do feel it. And I try to like lean into the embarrassing things I feel, and I think that's for me like the inspiration of like, it's using myself as inspiration, but like the worst part of me is my inspiration.
Yeah.
Dark thoughts.
But it's really
Dark thoughts.
Yeah.
Hey, whatever works.
Yeah.
All right. Next question is, what is something you hope to see in the church when it comes to creativity and technology? What are you guys like dreaming for, praying for, hoping changes, hoping that you see that something continue? You can take that wherever you want. So
I would have to say, just because of my roots and what I've seen in the church and growing up, I just hope and pray for an awakening for leadership to see the value that creatives have and hold. Creatives are the one who do all the work and get no thanks for it. And hey, we needed that. We needed this last minute. Like, good thing we pulled together. Way to go, team. But like the individuality and to be seen and recognized as how important our work is as a creative is so important and validating for us. So to be at a conference that is specifically niche to us is honestly just a breath of fresh air, because we don't get that. And so I would love to see leadership just really take a stand and say, hey, we see you. Well, I mean, like, I don't know what that looks like in resources or just like verbal affirmation or just expressing gratitude, but being able to really uplift and encourage creatives in the church who are serving on staff or not, just how valuable they are, especially in such a digital and screen first world.
That's good.
Yeah. Agreed.
I'd say actually the church I go to, they have a philosophy that like art speaks and art preaches, and so even to the decor, like there's a whole decor team, environments team at the church, because they believe like even that ministers to the gospel and it ministers to people. And so I think I heard a pastor say once, the power to define is the power to fulfill. So if you can't define something, you can't fulfill it. So if you can't define the purpose of what this art is, you're not going to fulfill what it can do. And so I think, I mean, we can go back in the day, like so much of the art that was mainstream was all depictions of Jesus or was used for, commissioned for the church, so like it was paving the way forward. And so I think realizing its significance and importance, I think you're not going to invest into anything that you don't think is valuable. And realizing that art does shape culture, creativity does shape how we live and how we move. And I guess what I would love to see is, I love that we're getting inspired by other churches, what other churches are doing, but that we can even like not just have what other churches are doing as a standard. Yeah. Like everybody has an LED wall because that's what it is, or everybody has, white everywhere, or everybody's got, whatever it may be. Like I remember like back in the day, like the pallet walls, or like the, everybody had the wood platform, you know what I mean? Like backgrounds, like everyone kind of copies each other, which is fine. But I think for your own context, having a vision for like, hey, like what's the art that's going to speak to our people? What's going to move it forward? Because I think the world should pay attention to the art we make rather than being, it's just like a bad copy of something that was done 2 years ago. Right. And so that's what I would love to see.
I think I agree with that. Like I think about like so many people in the music industry grew up usually in a small church.
Yes.
That's where they learned how to play an instrument, to sing. Somebody that was a leader invested in them, even though there was no like, maybe there's some raw talent, but there was not like polished talent yet. And I feel like in like the megachurch world, sometimes we look for people who are already skilled and we don't have an outlet to foster that, to actually grow people. And I think we should be growing people just like we did with music. We should be growing them on social media. That's like
so good.
Influencers should be coming from the church, be like, yeah, I got to like create stuff for my church and they loved it. And so now I'm creating this new platform because of that. Like in every area of art and design and all of these things, I think the church should be the one fostering it. And I think mega churches can do it, but it just requires a concerted effort of value, like you said, of like, yeah, we value it so much that we're going to train people who aren't going to contribute to the production yet. Maybe they will, but that's not the purpose. Our purpose is just foster that, to like grow creatives in our church.
Yeah, because who knows what the next generation's going to bring.
For real.
Like, I've heard over and over and over again, there's like this low like fire hunger developing amongst pastors and leadership about why don't we have a renaissance? Like, why isn't the church leading art? Like, we should be leading art like we used to. And in order for that to happen, we need to be investing in it and investing in the next generation and teaching them and providing them, equipping them with the tools that they need to be able to create and do what God's, speaking to them, or in that individual lens, because that's where art comes from. It's very individual and objective, but it's so different. Everyone has a different perception on what that could look like. And so being able to equip the next generation, like you said, with those tools would be incredible.
It's important too to not mix creativity for novelty. I know, like the grind of having to do, it's Christmas every stinking year. It's the same Christmas. We try to almost like bolt so much on top of the gospel when the gospel can do what it needs to do. So at least for the leaders, as you're planning your churches and trying to get creatives to work, give them some space to actually be creative. Don't just force them to come up with a new thing for everything, because you're just trying to pull from a well that's going to be empty.
That's good.
And I think, sorry.
No, I was gonna say, I agree with all you guys. I think, the biggest thing is like equipping people that are, like, social media is and can be a tool of evangelism, right? And so I was talking to a youth pastor, a friend of mine, that it's like, man, how cool would it be if like you had a class where you just had young students, young people come in to learn how to use social media in that way of like, I want to create content. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it, but it can be a form, if you do it right, of like genuine evangelism to invite students to come and be a part of it. And I think it's we see it as this thing of like only those people know how to use social media, or only those people are influencers. But it's like, we can be influencers in our own space, in our own right. If we have 100 followers or 100,000, like those 100 people that are following us, they are hearing our voices and they're seeing our stories and watching our feed. And so why not use it as a way to genuinely reach people? And so I think, finding ways for the church to embrace the younger generation that's wanting to learn, and not for the sake of it's going to benefit my church directly, but it's going to benefit the church at large, and then two, I would love to see brands getting inspired by the church and not vice versa, where the church is getting inspired by other brands. I think it's awesome. And like Maquinda said, getting inspired by other churches is cool, but I would love people, similar to the Renaissance idea, it's like, man, why can't we be at the forefront of creativity for people to see like, man, the church is like doing some amazing things. And creativity is a priority, not just something that a church does out of luxury, or like, oh man, we would love to be like this. But it's like, it's founded in who we are, because we understand that God's created us, therefore we are creative. So I would love to see creativity not just be a niche thing or a niche kind of subsection of church, but it's like all churches in their own right are doing things to be able to push the boundary, to say like, you know what, we're gonna bring our excellence forward, because we understand like it's gonna matter in the grand scheme of things to be able to reach more people.
Also, not only marketing. I feel like that's what like we use creativity to try to get butts in the seats.
Right.
And like, no, there's value beyond that.
That's so true. And again, it's the positive spin. I do think we are getting better.
Yeah.
Like, if I look, I've been in church all my life. Right. It was born in the pew. You know what I mean? I've seen a progression of it where it's like, even music, like we've gotten better. We've gotten better in so many different things. And I do think the world is paying attention in a lot of different ways. But I think, and Hannah said it on the money, like you have to have an investment. Investment comes with risk.
Hell yeah.
And I think part of it is like being okay with like figuring it out while you're doing it, and breaking the mold. If it's really your value, then take that risk. Like, obviously have proper boundaries, but be willing to take that risk. I think, not to get biblically nerdy, but do it. But when Samson, killed those armies with a donkey's jawbone, it says that after he did it, he threw it away, which is if I were me, I would keep it.
Like a memento.
I would sell it. I would like, I'd be like, man, this is the donkey's jawbone that did it. And like, if you, I'll have a digital product. Like if you want to learn how to do it, sign up for my class, my master class. But he threw it away. And I think part of it is because the anointing wasn't in the jawbone, it was on it for a certain time. And I think that's how we treat tradition. Anything that worked for a season, it's like, all right, let's just keep running that same play. It was like, well, it worked for that.
Right.
It worked for that generation. Yeah. It's probably not going to work for this one. And we need to be okay with putting it away because like God's hand on different seasons, it does change. And it's like, we have to take that risk of what is going to work for the next generation.
Yeah. And I think that's key. Like when I think about like my time at church, the stupid stuff I was allowed to do that like in the main service that shouldn't have gone on allowed me to grow in creativity. Like who I am now is largely because of people who took risks. And it was probably the worst thing that we could have done at the time, but it grew a next generation. Yeah. And like that risk thing is huge. Like, are you willing to risk that young person is going to, spout a little heresy or, or something like that, where you're just like, we're growing. And that's community. In community, you let that happen. Like when you're a family, you let the toddler carry the bowl of mashed potatoes to the table, knowing that they might trip and fall and break it. And it's not going to ruin the event. It's a family. It's the community. It's the point. So I think that's huge. That's
beautiful.
All right. So second to last question. If you could sit down with your pastor,
if I could.
You can't though.
In 6 months you can.
Or say, for example, another creative pastor who maybe doesn't get the creative thing, and encourage them like, man, I know maybe you don't understand this, but this is how I would encourage you to like lean into your creatives in your team. Like, what do you wish maybe someone said to your pastor 20, 30 years ago when you were first starting on this journey?
Invest in your relationship with them. Get to know them as a person. Help them to know you as a person, because they are looking up to you often in putting you on a pedestal that even you wouldn't want to be on, and you don't really know that unless you get to know them. You'll give them more room to be creative if you know who they are. You know the risks they're taking, and if they know that you care about them, they're going to be more willing to take those risks and come and talk to you about it.
Yeah, I would say just trust us. A lot of us, because we firmly believe that we're called to do this, or have just a consistent pull towards creativity. They might not even know why. Just foster that, because you never know what might sprout from it. And I spend so much time in my craft because I care about it. And I want to deliver the best that I can to my clients, to the design work that I create. And so I would never, ever bring something to leadership or my boss or a client that I wasn't proud of, and or something that wasn't risky. I wouldn't ask you to take a risk that I wouldn't take myself. And so I think just leaning into trust and being okay with the messy process that creativity is. Like, that's what revisions are for. That's what a collaborative process, creative process is for, is to have that back and forth so we land on something both sides are really comfortable with going forward. And so I think just being open to trusting your creative is so paramount to creating something that will last for a long time.
That's good. I'm going to go a little different route, if that's okay. I'd say to a pastor, more than that creative needing a boss, they need a pastor. They need a shepherd. They need somebody who will be willing to walk them through different things in life. I think there is a reason why David, probably one of the most creative people we see in Scripture, was plagued with some of the worst mental fortitude and just strongholds in his mind. And people who are creative, it sometimes comes from that place. And so I think I've known a lot of friends that are in church staff that, they have a gift, and so it's squeezed, but it's kind of overlooked, like, hey, I'm actually like a husband, a wife, a father, a mother. Like I need help in just my everyday life. And I think that actually would deepen that trust, where it's like, hey, I care about you beyond just what you create and do for me and your job. Because I think that is the blurring line a lot of times when you're our own church staff. Like, yes, like you are an employee, but you also are like part of this house. You are part of this family. And so I think not forgetting that, and that taking that hat off from time to time and being like, hey, this is not Pastor the boss, this is Pastor the shepherd. Like, I see you, what's going on, and having that that heart to be able to know that, hey, you're going to probably get the best out of your people when you show that you care about their whole world. And so that'd be my encouragement. I know that's a little bit different direction, but
I would probably say this. Say, listen, Pastor, there are going to be, chill out, guys. There are going to be some people you're never going to be able to reach because of your age, your personality, socioeconomic background, all this stuff. But creatives want to help you reach people that you're not going to reach. So if you want to be able to reach more people, invest in creatives who are going to help get your message out to more people.
Yeah, similar. I would say something similar, like the same way you use words, your charisma, your body language, like things on a platform, is the same way that creatives are using design and video and production to reach people. We're all after the same thing. It's just different methods. So trust that we are trying to reach, similar to what Jonathan said, people just the same way you are. It just may look different and maybe to a different audience.
Thank you guys so much for listening to the Monochrome Podcast. I hope you found that conversation with those creators interesting and engaging. If you want to go follow any of them or learn more about any of those incredible people, links to their socials will be in the show notes. You guys can always go check out the show notes to learn more about SALT, who our guest is, what's coming up. I want to also mention that just a few weeks ago, we launched ticket sales for SALT 2025.
Yes, we did.
And it is going to be an incredible year. You guys are not going to want to miss it. We've got some incredible talent. We're doing a tech tour at Belonging Co. We're back in Nashville. So go check out salt2025.com. Again, that'll be in the show notes if you want to learn more about that. But that is really like just an incredible event for everyone involved. We're really excited. But other than that, make sure you subscribe to the podcast so that you can catch every episode. Share this with a friend. If you found it valuable, maybe your friend will too. And then also it's so helpful when we get 5-star reviews on these podcasts.
So helpful.
It helps people to know that we're trusted, and it helps people to find us. And so our goal is really to help reach the local church and help them reach greatness and inspiration and be encouraged. And so that helps us accomplish that goal. Next week, we're going to be hearing from Brad Montague. He is a kids author, and he is the creator of Kid President. He has this awesome book called The Fantastic Bureau of Imagination. And my daughter absolutely loves that book. So you do not want to miss Brad Montague. He's very creative. So thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you next week.
See you next week.